Pacifica, this is Democracy Now! In Tampa, Florida. Breaking with convention, war, peace, and the presidency. As Tropical Storm Isaac hits the Gulf region, thousands of people are being evacuated in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. The national convention here has been postponed today, but protesters are still planning to march on the heavily fortified RNC.
We're here to oppose the ongoing wars and occupations that were started by the Republican Party under Bush, the over 11 years of occupation of Afghanistan, the thousands of innocent civilians and U.S. soldiers who have lost their lives for no good reason, and now the ongoing killer drone attacks.
We will air a voice you won't hear at this week's Republican National Convention.
We're spread too far around the world. We're in 140 countries. We have 900 bases. They're preparing right now to go into Syria, and it probably won't be too long that we may well be in Iran. We don't need another war. We need less wars, and we need to quit.
Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul denied a speaking spot at the RNC. Paul held his own convention of sorts in Tampa Sunday. He never mentioned Mitt Romney's name once, and we'll also get an alternative tour of Tampa from Rob Lori of community radio station WMNF. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A hurricane warning has been issued for the northern Gulf Coast as Tropical Storm Isaac looms over the Florida Panhandle up to Louisiana. Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi have declared states of emergency, leading to mandatory evacuations in low-lying coastal areas. The hurricane warning comes nearly 7 years to the day after Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast, devastating New Orleans. Isaac is headed to the Gulf Coast after battering Haiti and southern Florida. At least 6 deaths were reported in Haiti, which saw heavy flooding in the camps where some 400,000 survivors of the 2010 earthquake still live. Here in Florida, the storms led to the cancellation of today's first full day of the Republican National Convention. Republican spokesperson Kyle Downey said the convention will resume Tuesday.
We're in constant communication with state, federal, and local authorities, and, you know, we're going to make safety our primary concern, and we'll just see how things unfold. But, yeah, at this point, we're very confident that by Tuesday, we're going to be in great shape, and we'll kick off the convention.
Syrian government forces are being accused of committing what could be the deadliest massacre of Syria's 17-month-old conflict to date. On Saturday, activist groups said more than 300 bodies were found in homes around Daraya, most of them showing signs of execution-style murder. Unverified video shows rows of bodies, including those of children, bloodied and wrapped in sheets. The killings occurred as the Syrian regime retook control of Daraya after 3 days of fighting. The regime has denied responsibility and accused rebel forces of carrying out the massacre. Overall, activists say more than 400 people were killed across Syria Saturday, the country's bloodiest day since the conflict began. Dozens more were killed in violence Sunday. Earlier today, rebel forces claim responsibility for downing a Syrian military helicopter over Damascus. A new congressional study shows U.S. foreign weapons sales tripled last year to a record $66.3 billion, more than 75% of the total global weapons market. The Gulf regimes of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman bought U.S. arms at record levels. The British government has withdrawn its threat to seize WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange from his place of refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Ecuador says it received notice from Britain over the weekend that there's no threat to enter the embassy. Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa hailed the news.
We consider this unhappy incident to be over. A grave British diplomatic error, no? To say they are going to enter our embassy. But we consider this over. However, I hope the British don't distort what happened.
At least 39 people were killed in Venezuela Sunday in an explosion at the country's biggest refinery. It was the deadliest accident ever for Venezuela's oil industry. Israel's barred nearly 100 Palestinian solidarity activists from entering the occupied West Bank. The protesters, mostly from Europe, had tried to enter via the Allenby Bridge with Jordan. It was the latest effort by Israel to block a mass visit by international activists following the thwarting of a flotilla of thousands of people last year. One activist denied entry, said Israel's trying to block witnesses to the occupation.
They reject us because we openly say that we are in solidarity with Palestinians, and because they don't want any witness to see what they are doing to Palestinians.
Two members of Russia's dissident band Pussy Riot have fled the country to avoid prosecution for a peaceful protest against Russian President Vladimir Putin inside an Orthodox church. 3 members of the group were sentenced to 2 years in prison for the protest earlier this month. A judge rejected the argument their act was a form of political protest, instead ruling it was motivated by religious hatred. The 2 members who fled the country took part in the initial protest but have not been jailed. And the former U.S. astronaut Neil Armstrong has died at the age of 82. Armstrong was the first person ever on the moon, famously announcing what he called one giant leap for mankind on July 20th, 1969. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy